The street smelled of oil and rain. Dawn pressed a thin light across cracked pavement as a woman folded a blue top with hands that knew the geometry of labor. She set down a battered cart, arranged a neat row of sandwiches and bottles, smoothed a hand-lettered sign. On the corner where taxis eased and early shoppers hurried past, she began the slow work of turning the day into coins. She counted them with the same care she used to fold each sandwich, 2s and 1s, a few battered quarters. When the last customer left and the city's noise softened, she would set aside half of what she'd earned. Not in a bank, not in a secret account. In a dented tin, the lid taped on, a strip of faded masking tape across the side where someone had written, in a hurried hand, "For kids." People in the neighborhood had names for her: persistent, stubborn, kind, foolish. Children called her a friend. Nurses at the small pediatric ward across town knew her by sight. A scarf over her hair, a thermos of soup, a plastic bag with small wrapped gifts. She moved through both places like a quiet current, steady and unseen until you felt the wake. If you believe in everyday heroes, tap like and share this story so others can see what kindness looks like. Her name was Mira. She had been a vendor for nearly a decade. Rain, heat, the long months when business thinned. She endured them all because the stall was both livelihood and a simple stage of agency. On a good week, she might bring home what would buy vegetables, a token for rent, coffee for a friend. On a better day, she could send a little extra to a sibling's phone bill. But every evening, whether the day had been fruitful or lean, she split her take. Half to the tin, half to keep a roof. Someone once asked why. The answer came from a memory she rarely spoke aloud. A hospital waiting room years ago, sterile lights, a child clutching a threadbare toy, a family crushed by the arithmetic of treatment and time lost to work. She had watched a woman whisper, "I don't know how," into her hands. Mira kept seeing that whisper. It settled into her like a small, persistent command. She didn't fund treatment bills or clinical trials. She bought small things that mattered. Bus fares to bring a parent to the ward, packets of juice for children who hadn't had a proper drink in days, a knitted hat when winter bit through thin blankets. She brought soup and a magazine. She slipped little stickers to a boy who loved superheroes. Her help didn't promise miracles. It promised dignity in the shape of warmth, of being seen. Neighbors noticed. Mrs. Alvarez from the bakery would sometimes hand Mira an extra loaf. A teenager who worked nights would tap the tin and grin. Yet gossip swirled, too. "She gives away half her day's income? What if she gets sick?" someone whispered. "How can she be so generous if she barely eats?" Another said she was wasting what little she had on strangers. Pressure built, as it always does. The landlord, Mr. Klein, sent a terse note. Rent would increase in 30 days. The cost of packaging rose. One week, the rain came for 3 days straight, and customers melted away. Mira found herself tallying coins under the lamplight and realizing that instead of the usual split, her part for rent would be short by the price of a silver ring from a child's game. There was laundry to pay for, and a younger cousin to help with school supplies. The pediatric ward sent a plea. A child who used to run in with a laugh now needed reliable transport for a sequence of treatments. The parent worked odd shifts and couldn't always be there. The clinic couldn't promise outcomes, only the dignity of being able to keep appointments. On a grey Thursday, with the rain easing and the street reflecting neon, Mira gathered her takings. The cart had sold less than usual. Coins felt heavy in her palm. A nurse she knew, Samira, stood by, her coat damp, a relief form in her hand. The nurse didn't ask for money. She didn't need to. Mira had already known. "How much?" Samira asked quietly. Mira glanced at the tin. It was only a week of saving, not much, but steady. She thought of the child who loved toy cars and the parent who missed work to be beside their child. She thought of the woman who had whispered years ago into empty hands, She thought of the landlord's note and the small mound of unpaid bills on her home table. She thought of closing the stall and not knowing how she'd make rent. She slid the tin towards Samira and lifted the lid. The sound of coins was tiny and decisive. Samira's fingers hovered. Around them, a few neighbors crossed the street. A delivery driver paused at the curb. Someone on a morning walk filmed with a phone. Just a moment, nothing staged. A woman giving half her day's earnings to people neither related nor required. A rumor flew faster than the rain. The vendor had given half her day to the hospital. Voices split between wonder and scorn. "She can't afford that," said one. "She has a heart," said another. The landlord, who had been watching from his office window, grunted and went back to his ledgers. The city's appetite for a story is hungry, and every so often, it bites. A local journalist named Eli, who had been chasing small human tails, heard the tale from a nurse and came to the corner. He found Mira arranging sandwiches, unfazed by the attention. He sat on an overturned crate and asked one question: why? Mira shrugged, the way someone shrugs off weather. "Because a little thing for them is a big thing," she said. "A bus ticket is a chance to be with your child. Soup is a taste of home. It doesn't fix everything, but it's something." Eli's piece ran with a photograph of Mira counting coins, the tin clearly marked. The headline was crisp: "The Unlikely Angel at the Corner." People read it, and their reactions braided together. A small cafe 3 blocks away left a jar on its counter. The owner of a printing shop started adding a few dollars each week. A young father who had been helped by Mira months before returned to the corner and handed her a sealed envelope with a polite nod. Not everyone admired her. Some accused Mira of grandstanding, of being reckless. A town council member suggested that charities should be the ones to carry such burdens, hinting, thinly veiled, that individuals couldn't be relied upon. A comment thread on the article grew prickly, as online threads do. A different kind of pressure arrived at the clinic. Their fragile budget was real. They could only do so much. The photograph of Mira pressed the clinic into public view. It forced a conversation about who paid for what in a city that had stretched its social safety net thin. A local business owner, Samuel Fairborn, who ran a cluster of stores downtown, initially shrugged at the article. His PR advisor told him it would pass. But then customers began to ask. They asked why his larger company wasn't doing more to support the small clinics their taxes and purchases relied upon. Reputation, like water, finds cracks. The turning point came quietly and in public. One afternoon, as Mira handed a wrapped sandwich to a small girl with a buzz cut who beamed like sunlight, a neighbor confronted her, not angrily, but with the bluntness of someone who loved and feared at once. "You give everything away," he said. "What will happen to you?" His voice trembled. Mira looked up at the sky, at the street, at the slow economy of small gestures. "I do what I can," she answered. "Sometimes what I can is enough for someone to make it through the night." That night, someone posted the brief video of her giving her earnings. It threaded through the city. People who had never met her felt the same small shock of recognition. Here was someone doing simple, radical kindness. The idea that a single person could be a constant, practical presence stirred others. A group of university students organized a donation drive. A neighborhood association set up a schedule to bring meals. The cafe matched the jar with a weekly bake sale whose proceeds went to the ward. Fairborn, the businessman, found an envelope on his desk from customers and employees urging action. He attended a community meeting, initially to keep face. He listened to a nurse describe the way a bus fare could mean the difference between a child attending a crucial appointment and missing it. He saw Mira in the audience, head bowed, hands folded. No one lionized her. No one asked her for the heroic. They simply asked the city to be kinder. What followed was the slow, stubborn work of change. The business contributed funds to the clinic's transportation program. The landlord, whose rent demands had loomed like a storm, negotiated a small grace period for Mira after seeing the community response, an arrangement that preserved her stall without erasing her autonomy. Volunteers organized a schedule of small comforts to be delivered to the ward. People learned the arithmetic of tiny, reliable gifts. $5 can buy a pack of travel tickets for a week. $20 can cover a private taxi on night shifts. A knitted hat may be only a hat, but worn, it has the power to restore a child's laugh. For Mira, the cost remained real. The tin grew and emptied and grew again. She still counted coins with the same slow reverence. Her rent was negotiated, but she still traded meals for a little extra to top up the tin on lean weeks. The point was not that she became a philanthropist with public adoration. The point was that her small, repeated choices made space for other people to do the same. Children in the ward began to know the taste of soup arriving mid-afternoon, the thrill of a small toy appearing taped with a note that said only, "From Mira." Nurses wrote grateful notes and propped them up in the break room. A boy who loved to draw sent a jagged bright picture of a woman under a streetlight, a tin beside her and stars above, the stars perhaps drawn from a child's belief in angels. In the end, Mira's legacy wasn't a single rescue or a dramatic turnaround. It was a pattern. One person's persistent generosity changed how a neighborhood saw its own obligations. It reminded people that dignity can be purchased sometimes with coins and sometimes with hours. A ride to a clinic, an extra sandwich, a patient conversation in a doorway. It nudged a businessman to remember that his company's footprint could be more than profits. It coaxed neighbors into an economy of care. She returned to the corner the morning after the article, folding her blue top, arranging sandwiches, setting out bottles. The tin sat on the cart, lighter from that day's giving, yet full in a different way. Children waved from across the street. A nurse stopped by to say thank you, handing her a thermos of hot tea. Mira smiled with a small, steady smile, the kind you earn when you choose daily, ordinary courage. She didn't save the world. She did not cure illness or erase the structural problems that make families fragile. But she saved the day for many. She showed that consistent, modest sacrifices can ripple outward until they become a tide. People called her an angel because she acted like one. Human, complicated, generous, a presence in the ordinary hours. If this moved you, subscribe for more real stories of compassion. And if you want to help, consider supporting local pediatric charities. Every small gift helps.